Hi, welcome to another episode of the iDeas podcast. This is going to be a really exciting conversation because there are some questions that certainly I could do with some help with. With me today is Kim from Belvista Studios. Kim, thank you so much for taking your evening up, because I know you're all the way on the other side of the world to me.
No, I'm grateful to get to talk with a like-minded person, so thank you for having me.
Thanks. So we've got loads to talk about. As you probably all already know, Kim runs Belvista Studios, which is, we were just kind of chatting beforehand. As I said, it's kind of the consultancy that sort of stands alone and is very different in my mind, for all good reasons, and has gone a different way, certainly, to where I was kind of told that I needed to go and what I needed to do. So I'm super interested to get into lots of that stuff. But first things first, the reason people tune into this show, of course, is to find out what people are drinking. So, Kim, what have you got?
Oh, Jesus. Do you know what? The only thing I drink is water and coffee. I will, love coffee, a really strong one, long black, or when Victoria on my team reminds me, I drink a glass of water.
What's
your choice? What's your go-to?
Well, it's 9 a.m. here, so I have got coffee. Even for me, 9 a.m. is too early for a beer.
No.
But yes, sadly, it's still slightly too early because other people haven't started their day yet to turn the coffee machine on, because it's quite noisy because it's against a wall. So I've got the instant coffee for now, but a nice coffee later.
Oh, it's very considerate of you.
Yeah, it's quite unusual, but sometimes it's just not worth the risk.
Fair enough. Okay, but, I'm reading between some lines here.
So let's dive straight in. I'll let you introduce yourself first, and then we'll go from there.
All right. I guess keep it industry specific, not just my favorite color. And I run Belvista Studios, and we're an end-to-end instructional design e-learning studio. And we our work comes from a human-centered perspective. Like, we really, as practitioners, discovered that and the value, and now we're just like, yo, everybody's got to get on this. But when I was a wee girl, I wanted to create a surf and skateboard brand. You'll probably see some decks behind me that I've done little textures and made the art on. So I loved artistic stuff. I really loved design in all its forms. And I studied graphic design. That's how I kind of got a taste for computer design and visual design and UI and stuff. And then I was like, the ceiling is too small in this industry for me, financially. And it seemed like you had to grind a lot to do anything in there. And I'm about living, no regrets. So I got a taste for training and development randomly in my university job. And basically my retail, I worked in Vodafone selling phones to people. And I was particularly good at it. And my store manager said, can you train the other staff? And that's how it came about. What training is a job? And then, I just kind of merged my two passions of creativity and helping people be better humans, and said yes to more things that let me do that and no to the things that didn't. And eventually I went into L&D, so learning and development, as a training officer type person. I'm from Ireland. It's traditionally, that's why I talk a little bit funny. So traditionally over there, success is go to college, climb the ladder, get a CEO job. And I thought that's what success was until I learned more about myself. And when I was in the L&D jobs, that's what I was pursuing. It's I'm going to be the CEO of this government organization. Not really, but I wanted to be HR manager, get there. And then I was like, ugh, politics and people that don't have good work ethics and doing reactive stuff, that's shit. So I basically got really disengaged and said, I will never work in a place where this can tear me down as a human being. But it's too risky to find a job that can support my values and my interests. So therefore I'll create it. And since I was a little girl, I was always going to create a business, but I did think it was fashion and skate and surf and stuff. But then I was like, oh, maybe this e-learning thing could be something I could do as a job. And here we are, Belvista Studios. Yeah,
That's
that's a
awesome.
condensed version.
I'd never known about the Vodafone, and that was where you
Oh,
sort of
really?
started the training stuff. It's only because I started in phone shops as well. That's
Oh,
quite interesting.
serious?
That's where I got exactly the same thing. Started selling
Yeah.
phones, but I was at Phones for You,
Yep.
the dodgy phone brand. That
Yeah,
everyone kind
yeah.
of went, "Oh, really?"
It kind of suits you as well. Like, nah,
Hang on,
you know,
what?
dodgy character, dodgy phone seller. Nah.
We're basically kind of like the used car salesman
Mm.
of the phone industry. Although we weren't all that bad, I should stress. Some of us left for that reason. But exactly the thing. It was in retail. I think it was far more common then for there to be a kind of, well, there's kind of training when you start, but other than that, nah, get on with it.
Yeah.
And so you're right. Anyone with any kind of ability very quickly got the kind of, do you want to train people?
Yeah.
Although most people kind of saw it as, am I getting paid extra for this? No, then no. But no, certainly for me, it was that kind of, oh, okay, this is cool. I don't have to speak to
Yeah.
customers if I do this. This is awesome. Um,
Nah,
but
that is cool. Yeah.
yeah, so I'm really interested. So that kind of jump from graphic design into learning, was
Mm.
that? I mean, I guess it's kind of almost, you know, do those skills cross over? We know, of course, they do. But how do you think that kind of shaped your approach as you started sort of moving into the world of designing, learning, and training?
I'd say the first thing is that I knew that things needed to look good. That first impressions on whatever we created was important. And I had some awareness around that. I don't think I appreciated the value it would bring to the solutions that I created, but definitely there was some aspect. And even, I guess, because of my appreciation for creativity, art, and design anyway, I was looking for that. But I definitely
Mm.
think it was probably set me apart from a portfolio, like application perspective. I remember someone sent me a job. I'd never created any e-learning before, and someone said, this job it was like massive pay rise in comparison, a permanent position in another organization, but they wanted, you were specific to e-learning. So I'd never done e-learning. I barely knew what e-learning was. Like, I'd say something similar to LinkedIn was my exposure. So I didn't even know anything about the industry. And then I was like, right, we'll jump on Google, find out what this is about. And then I was like, oh, I reckon I could do that job. Like, that role description, I can do it. But it was like you needed a minimum of 2 years experience or something. And I was like, yeah, cool. Oh, well, who cares about that part? So anyone listening, screw that. I've always applied for jobs when they said that and been successful. And I've know other people that have as well. But the design stuff in me, I wanted to make sure I could do the job. So I just started playing in the tools and I figured it out. And as part of my application, I presented an e-learning module. I would still have the files. It's shocking. Like, I'd be so embarrassed. I wouldn't be so embarrassed. Like, designers evolve. But like, I just think that initiative, like, and those skills for an appreciation for design and problem solving came through. And that's what the person hired me for. And now later on, like, holy moly, I am so grateful that I have my design skills because I can jump into things like Adobe. I'm so familiar with that stuff. And it's easier than asking someone else to do it, for example, if they don't like have the skills or if it's time like pressures or that on the project. But I guess now our clients appreciate the look and feel. And sometimes, like, because I continuously am looking at good web design, good app design, like beautiful things that graphic designers and visual designers are doing. And I'm like, I wish I could design like that. And I can only do like half what they can do, but our clients are like so stoked. And I know that that's helped Belvista Studios continue, maintain, sustain, and attract new clients. So I do think if you have any interest in design, I would dedicate some time to work it out. If you don't have any interest in design, I think leave it and hire someone that's better, because there's a real like difference between the finesse of a good design and someone that knows visual design principles as opposed to someone that's just trying to make it work. And it can really make or break your solution, that first impression on the learner, people hiring you again for jobs, you getting the job in the first place. So it's really about pulling on the strengths of everyone around you to deliver for the best outcome. And yeah, so either if you like it, explore it as a development thing. It can be really cool for your own creativity, especially a lot of people in our industry are creative. But if you don't, if you're like, hate design, outsource, get someone that loves that shiz.
Yeah,
what do you reckon? Have you got a background in creativity?
Sort of, but my world was very much the kind of drama, music, art.
Oh yeah,
it's kind of school, that's in terms of study, and then more specifically in kind of lighting and sound design. So less visual in terms of useful in e-learning. But
how does it? How does that transfer? Yeah.
I enjoy working in video a lot. Because I always think one of something that kind of gets overlooked a lot is the power of that combination of video, great audio in terms of dialogue, well captured, and music. Effectively, that what film's going to do, and they go, we want an emotional reaction. Well, the kind of super highway to human emotional reaction is music. And yet then you go, I'm going to put music in e-learning. People go, no, you can't do that. It's against the rules.
Yeah.
It's as I found out when I put that out online not long ago, and was like,
oh,
no,
really?
you'll prevent people learning. I was like, really?
Storytelling.
Do we still think this? Yeah. And I think it's the classic example of I'm very keen on like research based sort of learning design. You should absolutely take into account learning sciences and psychology. However, there's a gulf between practical application and what a research paper says. So yes, if you've got, I don't know, loud, intrusive music playing in the background, it's quite difficult to study if you're studying from a textbook, for instance. But if the whole point, especially in workplace learning, is to talk, I don't know, that you're talking about a customer scenario that went very wrong, a little bit of music can really help get you to understand that this is an unhappy situation, which sounds very basic, but we all fall for it every time we watch a television program or a film.
Absolutely,
or whatever.
Yeah.
Same reason we all get excited at the start of a Marvel film when the Marvel soundtrack starts playing. I think it's underused. But I'm always in awe of anyone that can draw something that doesn't look like a complete mess. I get as far as some straight lines with a ruler to wireframe a page out, and I go, and now to a professional. But I couldn't agree with you more, though. That's it's kind of in my head. I can see exactly what I want, but there is no chance I'm going to create it. So exactly as you said, it's a case of why do a kind of half-assed attempt when I could just say, you're really good at this, you make it look amazing. It just makes so much more sense. But I was really interested when you said about how when you formed Belvista, it was about kind of the value, the culture, the place you wanted to work. And I think that shines through. Because whether you watch the YouTube videos, or I mean, I first spoke to you when you and Kath were running the Learning Con and the show and things like that. And it kind of strikes me that in everything you get involved in, that kind of shines through, that it's all about the culture and how people treat each other and how we work together. So I'm really interested, what were the kind of things that you set up as the values when starting your business?
Could you describe Belvista Studios in 3 words? First 3 words that come to mind. No offense will be taken.
Oh, well, in that case, I think energetic would be, well, energetic or enthusiastic maybe is a better word for it, actually. That's really tricky. I want to come up with a word that means people focused, but I think that's going to have to be 2 words.
Okay.
Describing other people's businesses is always tricky. And I almost want to say kind of like edgy is the 3rd one. As I said before, I couldn't. You certainly wouldn't say, oh, it's a lot like this other company here. I'm lacking the the simile company, if you will. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think those would be what my immediate reaction anyway.
Okay, so the culture for me and what you see shine through is basically Kim Tuohy. And at times we are Belvista Studios. And why I asked is because I wanted to validate this activity and prove it to people that it's worth doing. So I was a full-time employee and I listened to Start With Why, Simon Sinek, the 5-minute version. And it was basically Start With Why. And I was like, whoa, wait, does Kim have a Start With Why? Like, what's my why? So I sat down and I was like, what words describe me? Like, what am I about? Who do I want to be? And also I asked people around me, people I worked with, family, friends, all that sort of stuff. I was like, describe me in 3 words, right? And eventually I didn't take that long, but I really wanted to find out who I was. And the 3 words that I came up with were playfulness, which aligns to the first one that you said, that enthusiasm and stuff. Leadership, which is the people side of it.
Yeah.
And then the last word was inspiration. So that edginess and doing it different, I think that's a really nice demonstration of basically I'm living my authentic self in all moments and every decision and action that I make. And it is coming through in the posts and the videos that we make, how I am with my team, the look and feel of the business, the way that I live my day every day. Everything is a decision based on basically those 3 values. Which is kind of the culture of our organization. But it's not like I picked those words from everywhere. I went within to figure out what they are. And then I was like, well, does my view of myself align with how people receive me and perceive me? And that was validated, and you've done it again here. So that's where it kind of came from, because I never understood when people said, oh, you wouldn't know who I am outside work. Or like, I'm totally different outside work. I was like, why would you do that? Like, that must be so draining to try to pretend to be someone else when you come through the work doors. So I never wanted a place where I was forced to not be me, because it feels really uncomfortable. And then how that's played out really beautifully, and you guys probably see it, is in our team environment, is where I am my authentic self. I attract authentic people to me. So Hannah, Victoria, fabulous human beings in their own little individual authentic selves, but we align really well. And those values are just basically, we're an extension of each other. And how it also plays out is the clients that we work with. So I'm not everyone's type of person. That's cool, because not everyone is my type of person. But the people that do appreciate me for who I am and what I bring and what I preach and what I represent, it means I don't have to be anyone else, and they really value what we do at Belvista Studios, and it just makes so much synergy and such a great working relationship. It attracts people that are aligned to causes that we care about as well, so we work on meaningful projects. So I think that's where it's come down from, and that's just a really important exercise for everyone to do in their lives, I reckon. And like, I guess, you kind of do have this, like, the world is like, everything must have blue in it because it's corporate and trustworthy. And everyone's got these like stereotypes, and if you're an organization, you need to be this and blah, blah, blah. But we're just people, right? And like, I've had people tell me this, and it's their perception. I take it as feedback. Like, we've got photos of us being idiots, tongues out. Someone told me, get rid of all photos on your website that have your tongues out. That is not professional. We've had people tell us, don't put memes in emails back to clients, or don't write back ha ha ha. Like, how I am now is how you get me in all. If I was at a funeral, if I was at a wedding, if I'm at a first birthday, this is who I am. Like, so I listen to those things and I check, are they aligned with my authentic self? And if they're not aligned, I will not. My boundary for myself is I am aware that I won't be liked by everyone, and not everyone will get me. But if there's any discomfort in me being a different way from who I am, then it can't happen. I will not sway to work with someone that doesn't appreciate me, or or us as a team, or gives me feedback that's not validated. It's an opinion. It's a subjective opinion. I'll always listen, but there's a self-check behind it, because so much of my human values is around the authentic self.
I find that really, really interesting, because so much of the advice, certainly that I've got and that I know other people have got, is that kind of if you want to be successful, you need to focus on broad appeal. You need to tone this down, or paint your website blue, or whatever the equivalent is. It's strange. We got the same advice as we started to grow, and it was kind of, you've got a lot of Dungeons and Dragons references. You've got a dragon on your front page of your website. Is that good? Is that, it's like, well, I don't know. I like it.
Yeah. But we're dealing with humans, like imagine they were picking between you and I, and they went onto our websites and they saw Dungeons and Dragons and they freaking loved it too. They're going to call you. You're going to be first preference, first phone call. You guys are going to have a banging chat about that. They call me and they're like, who's your character, Kim? I'll be like, let me just Google what that thing's about.
I think this is it. But I think there's almost that fear, I think. And I totally get it, especially as a freelancer starting out, of what if I put a customer off? Because one customer is, in that moment, everything, right? Especially that first customer. It's so I think I get the fear that drives it. I think it's just, I think it drives a lot of what would be very interesting small companies and freelancers into being very corporate, which I think can also then mirror into their work. I know it did in mine. At the very start, I got that advice and went, oh, well, I better do what everyone says. And then found, wow, my work's really boring. And it's because, I was working for banks and exciting companies like that, who wanted blue on everything, and the logo in the corner of every slide, and all this kind of stuff. And you kind of, me changing what I felt was important to my business has then shaped the work that I do, which I now don't enjoy. And I was really interested actually to ask, have you ever, and you may not want to answer this, but have you ever gone against your guiding principles and kind of had it proven to you that it's important not to?
Yes, there would be times. But I'd say it wouldn't be about our brand. I'd say potential clients no, it wouldn't be brand related actually. So when I've gone away from my processes, it always bites me in the ass. So I will never, ever discount us. None of our products will ever be discounted. I will never use a lower rate ever again, because I know what we're worth and I know the value we bring. And anyone that asks for a discount is just, they don't want us. I will never convince people to buy any of our stuff. That's why we don't really sell any of our stuff. I want the value to be there for them to self-qualify themselves that Belvista Studios is for me, because I don't want to convince anyone. So anytime that I basically had some sort of pain, whether it comes to like a price on a contract, to do with a scope or a schedule of a project, a working style maybe of a client and our team, anytime that I have said, let's bend the rules, or first of all, when it was painful, I was like, I will never let that happen again. And it became a new process for the business and a new way of improving, so that we weren't burnt in that way. And it's like minor things. It's not like huge, but it's just like, because I'm about making my life as easy as possible, right? So if it back and forth with the emails, I'm like, ain't no got time for that. I'm just like, here's the calendar link. You go find time in my calendar. So like trying to remove friction like that. But sometimes, we're really, one thing that I'm just thinking of from a money perspective, we are very connected to the healthcare industry. And it's a big mission for us to have a bigger impact as we grow, particularly solving problems and redesigning that industry. And we got the opportunity. I had made the decision, never ever will we cut our prices again. One situation will allow us. As we get more and more into this industry, we may drop our price if the project is right for us. So project comes along, it's aligned to the industry that we really want to have an impact in. We have a very personal drive within the team to impact that in a positive way. So I dropped the price, and we had a conversation as a team, make sure like we're dropping our price, our rate. Are we all good with this? This is what it means. No mistakes, no room for rework, very lean on the project schedule. So we really like held our expectations as a team together to make sure that we weren't burnt. And then so we commit to the contract. Like it was going to be fucking brilliant. Like it was just, it would have had such an impact on the industry and a great opportunity for us to be contributing to something bigger than ourselves. And project kicks off. We are working at that lower rate. Anyway, it went to shit. Not from us, but we were subcontracting to a larger organization because it was a very big project. And it just fell apart. And we couldn't, I had set boundaries in place around the scope, set boundaries in place around the schedule and around the price. And every single one of them fell apart. And that was the rule. From there, I've been burnt, even though I said I wouldn't, never again. So it has happened, but it's just being, and now what I say, because I always say this, people go back for their second child because they forget that their fannies were ripped the first time, and that how much struggle those early months were, you know, and the lack of sleep and all this kind of stuff, right? And I know people actually genuinely want to have a second child, so take it in jest. But you forget over time that, oh yeah, when we did drop our rate, all this pain, I literally lost the wages for the team for 2 months, right? So that's the impact of this project. It was pulled from under us. We had no say in it. And I'm like, where do I get the money to pay the team for 2 months? So I say when that happens, we always talk as a team, what's the improvement we need to put in place to our systems and processes so it doesn't happen again? So now, even that healthcare industry, any healthcare industry, we will not drop our rates because it's burnt us in the past. So now even that decision has been improved. But what I also do is I say to the team, girls, I'm gonna go back for a second baby if you guys don't have my back. So I need you to tell me, like, we've had this conversation. Anytime I say to you, okay, we'll discount it for this person, you need to tell me, no, Kim, you said no, and it means no. So I do things like that. So I hope that adds value to what you wanted to get from it.
Yeah, no, I think it's always interesting because I find people who have, and you don't meet many who actually stick to them either. Like I always say in my business, I run a business, not a church. So everything that I say is in theory flexible. But some of those things, you're right, are more kind of, no, I've learnt this the hard way. So I think it's always interesting, but it's also that case of, I think you're exactly right. There is always the temptation. There's something will always pull you to go, oh, well, just this once I will. But yeah, I think
I'll give you a good example actually, Tom, of like not lowering your standards and forgetting, right? So that happened, and I've now got no more discounts ever. That person came back months later, almost a year later. Literally today, so this is fresh. Kim, new project. This is the scope. This is the price. It's at the discounted rate. And I just immediately went back, no. Not in those words, but no, we can't meet your scope and all that kind of thing. And I get an email back. And I didn't want to say no and close the door. This is just good business stuff. So I said, what is achievable for your price is this. But if you want us to do your scope, this is what it's going to cost. Do you know what they've come back? We'll give it to you, the job, at your rates. And it's double what they offered in their first offer.
But I think, again, that fear potentially that is there, despite all the work that's around right now, would just go, wow, someone's offered me work. They've come straight to me. I better just say yes. Yeah. I'm quite interested in where did you, or when did you, and how did you pick up the kind of the business skills that you obviously have to be able to negotiate and go backwards and forwards and get these kind of client conversations going so positively?
I think there's probably two parts to the answer. Like, I really am interested in business. Like, I love business. And when I was 12, like, my mom and dad wanted to like trademark a little clothing brand for me because I was literally like looking that stuff up, marketing plans, like, yeah, they were one of my hobbies, was researching that kind of stuff because I really loved business. So it's always been an interest of mine. I just never knew what the business would be. And that's why one thing I say to people, do that exercise of what's your why. But the second one is, what were you into as a little kid? Because all of the things that show up in my life, I am like so stoked with life. Like I have no regrets. I live every day fucking epic. Like if I died right now, super stoked with everything that's gone on. And if I look at the things that I was interested in as a little girl, I love skating. I couldn't skate, but like I have that as part of kind of who I am now. I loved art. That's in my job now. I used to play teaching like with my sister, my friend, and her little sister. So I had something in training, like with the little blackboard in my friend's like bedroom when we were kids in primary school. So there's clues in your childhood that if you just return to them, like I am the child that I wanted to be all throughout my life. Those aspects are there and you can make it work and you can get paid for it and it does not feel like a job. And then returning then to your like question around the business kind of acumen, savvy, skills, whatever, is I needed results essentially. And how do you get results? Apply instructional design. Like this is what I say to anyone I coach when you are doing a business. Apply instructional design. What's the problem you're trying to solve? So instructional design is a life skill. It's not just create training and solutions. So if you think about what's the problem I'm trying to solve, I'm thinking like I need to make money, which is normally the first thing. How do I get my first client? How do I sign a contract? Do I open the opportunity for freelance consulting or business, or do I become an employee? So you just basically now you've got some sort of analysis starting to happen for your journey. And then it's like when you know that as a goal, make money, you've got things to explore. And then it's like, okay, well, how do I get those things happening? How do I get my first client? It sounds like people need to know about me. How would people find out about me? We're very lucky that we live in an internet-rich content world. So where are the people that I want to hang out with hanging out? Actually, who are the people I want to who do I want as my clients? I really like healthcare, for example, or you like Dungeons and Dragons and you'd love to work for a gaming company. Okay, cool. Go find out what they're up to, what's happening in their world. And you're just problem solving, literally like I'm doing just there, which gives you little like dots, joining the dots to basically create your business plan and your action plan. And then I think where I've got really good skills from is just YouTube. And there's a guy called Chris Do who runs The Future. They used to be the FUTUR. Fantastic person. In terms of if you want to talk about price, marketing, proposals, quoting, negotiations, conflict, communication, anything like that, he is fantastic. I learned so much from him. And then he has other things if you're not new in your first 2 years of business, go to Chris Do if you're in your first up to 2 years. If you want more advanced people where you want to be like solving problems and playing in the strategy place and you want to do value-based pricing where you can say, look, we can do that, but the impact in our solution is going to be worth $250 million to your business, then you want to look at someone called Blair Enns, or there's a guy called Joseph Stark, I think his name is, both on YouTube. You just watch them and you pick out the little points of that script is going to be useful for me. Like I literally have scripts. So when I go into a sales conversation, because for example, I don't do them very often, I forget, right? So I got to refresh. So I just go to my notes of these people and I just go, oh yeah, cool. There's only like 3 or 4 objections that will come up. So it's basically, there's patterns in stuff. So I just find out what's my goal, what's the quickest and easiest way to get to that goal, and do I need anything to support me if I need to do it again? Because my brain, I can't hold a lot of stuff, so I'm going to forget it. I'm in that sales conversation, I'm on fire. The minute I hang up, sales, I can't even remember what I said. because I'm on to the next thing sort of thing. So yeah, that was kind of my journey, is just like, I remember my first sales conversation, like first client, right? Number one goal when you go out in business. I was like, well, I got a sales conversation? What the hell? I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to sell. And then I'm like, oh, wait, well, I was good at that phone shop. What was good about what I did there? Actually, I always got complimented because people didn't feel pushy. I always got complimented because they felt they were in control in the conversation that I listened. So I'm like, maybe I should try that in this sales conversation that's coming up. Also, what am I meant to do in a sales conversation? So then I jump on Google and I find people like Chris Do, and then I create like a little script or a template or a tip sheet for myself, and I just go execute. And then afterwards I reflect, I put something in place to improve it and take action.
Awesome. It's so nice to have a conversation like this with someone who has been successful, but is also quite open with sharing it, if that makes sense. Like this, there was an attempt at this, almost these same topics before, but that episode will never air because there was a lot of, I don't really want to share that.
I'll share anything.
It quickly became let's not publish this episode because that's not very interesting to hear. But
I'm happy to go there, like to expose topics. So feel free. I'm comfortable.
It's awesome. So one thing that I've always really, really liked, because again, once you and Kath ran the Learning Con, which I think I'll touch on that first. Actually, sorry, scattergun conversation. Who knew from me? I'm really interested to find out what pushed you to say gonna run a conference, because it's quite a specific thing to just decide to go and do. So what was the reasoning for yourself?
Okay, I have to reflect because I haven't thought about this in a long time.
So I always forget how long ago it was. It's because for me it was such a big thing for me because I hadn't that long started to grow my business before that. So for me it was one of the first big things that I went and did as I don't work for anyone else. So it always looms large in my mind.
I remember, so Kath used to do a virtual meetup, and that's how I first came across her. And I would attend her meetups and just very loved what she was about in terms of, I guess, some of the things like the sales stuff and proposals and knowing your boundaries and red flags. We were very aligned on that from a business perspective. And she inspired me a lot. And I loved those meetups. And we were at Belvista Studios doing our thing. Our thing is where what you see, I keep looking over there. I don't know why. There's a screen in front of me. It's like I'm trying to, I don't know. Anyway, sorry. So Belvista Studios, the reason we add value and put content out initially started because I needed a way to hold myself accountable to develop and to continuously improve myself. Because when I started myself, it's very easy to get falling into working in the business. A lot of L&D people are like, oh no, like I don't ever go to a training course or anything like that. And I was like, how could you not? Like everything changes every day if you're a human being. So I didn't want that to be the case. And what I did was go, right, I will put myself out to the world for the world to hold me accountable to make sure that I am developing the best solutions possible for the people that are paying me and for their learners. So that is why we put so much content out and we share everything. And then when the team came on board, it was the same for them. You need to develop and you're going to put stuff out and teach others because I need you to embed what I'm teaching you, what you're learning through other things, and then go teach others because we know that's an effective way of embedding learning. And also, like, why not add value to people's lives? Like, that's a core value, which I said earlier, like, help people be better humans is really important to me. So that's why there's so much content from us. Then you've got Kath, same deal. She's putting out really good quality content. So we're quite aligned, right? And we always were like, how could we do something bigger than what we're currently doing? And when she presented the idea, we were originally, actually, this was pre-COVID, we were going to do little what do you call them, like road trips around Australia and go to the cities
cool.
and meet the people that came to the meetups in person, like people like Amanda and Emma that you saw on the show for part of that competition. Like I'd never met them in person, but how cool to vibe with people like that in real life. So that was the intention, go around and just fucking have a great time with like-minded people. Then everything had to go online. It went virtual. So we were like, well, how do we make that happen in a virtual space? And that's where the learning conference came from. So it was always about adding value. And I think, you know, the space that we created, it was really important. There was an absolute no sell zone. We paid our speakers because we wanted to have quality speakers, but we also wanted them to be rewarded for the effort that goes into presenting and for their IP. You saw there was so much, like the show that has blown away people's design skills, their instructional design skills, because it brought awareness to what good learning looks like. So it was adding a lot of value, and which is really important from Kath and I's perspective, and what our businesses stand for is adding value to the industry. So we did that through the show, and that was so time consuming, but so impactful for people to watch those episodes. And then all the things that came from that, the quotes, the tips, all the social media marketing around it. So as always, the intention was, how can we bring more value and expand what we're currently doing, but let's do it together.
I think it's definitely mission achieved. Like just doing that, you're up from a challenging perspective. It made me think in ways I hadn't thought in a long time.
Like what?
Just for having, for me, mostly it was considering it's just me. So what can I deliver? Which after a while, when you get used to having other people to pull on as a resource, there is always that danger that you're no longer pulling on them as a resource, you're leaning on them. And failing to develop yourself. So I very quickly found myself re-YouTubing. So how did I used to do this in Illustrator? And how do I design with that kind of effect versus this? And how do I alter this and get this in? But also going back to real basics, and just every couple of weeks going, well, here's a new problem. You better start at least mock in your head needs analysis. You better start thinking about a different way to deliver it. And kind of deliberately saying, you will not deliver 16:9 e-learning. You will not do it. You will do something else.
That's cool.
Which was great. And from a business perspective, the number of people off the back of it that got in touch, whether they then became customers or not, or they're just great connections, or people who have then appeared on the podcast but would never perhaps have spoken to me otherwise. So I know everyone kind of says the same that was in it. It was a great experience, but it really was. And I think it's a testament to the amount of work it was to run that I don't think anyone else has done it since. It must have been a huge commitment from all of you. To actually sit and wade through all our stuff every week, but it was great. But one thing there was kind of delivering value to other people, and the question I was going to ask before this, but then kind of moved to afterwards, was about the amount of content you and your team do put out there. That isn't kind of overt marketing, but the YouTube stuff, the things on the Creator Hub. And I mean, the quality of the things on the Creator Hub for things that are either free or very low cost compared to what some people charge for things in our industry, which make us cry. It kind of, I almost look at it and think, how do you guys find time to actually work? Because you put out so much content. Obviously, putting out content is work, but you know what I mean in terms of like client work. So I was thinking, do you have a kind of pre-planned strategy for content that you put out? Because it feels very spontaneous, but
it is.
You might just be very good actors. I don't know.
No, it's honestly like, what do we want to learn? What hasn't gone well recently that we need to learn and do better? So that's why there's no theme. The people that I have on the show, or the people that come on our podcast, are me going, I'm interested about this topic. Who has been in my peripheral that I can, because it's called Learning with Belvista Studios. It's basically an opportunity for me or my team to interview people and be curious. So all of our content that we put out is basically our learning as a team. The resources that are on the Creator Hub, they're all what we use. The email templates, basically I hate emailing. It's so time consuming. So I started creating templates so I could just copy and paste, because the same thing goes out all the time. Project schedule, project update, delivery for review 1, delivery for review 2. I'm like, I ain't drafting that the whole time. Like, I got better things to do, you know, and I don't like it. So I created these email templates, then the team start using it and they're like, oh my God, this is really valuable. Like, oh, if you find it valuable, other people will. Let's put it as a product on the Creator Hub. A lot of the stuff out there, like, it's literally what we use in our studio. The things that we charge for, like, they are exceptional, you know, like, and I think we definitely have permission to charge for our products because there is just excess value out there and we need to be rewarded for what we put out there. And that's the only way we can do it from a consultant, freelancer, individual perspective, for that sort of stuff that we put out there. But like when you see the Studio Insights episode, we were having Studio Insights is basically an hour every week where our team has the opportunity to ask each other questions and learn from each other. Why did I create that? Because the team kept asking me questions and we'd have these amazing conversations, but they'd also eat into time when we should be working on project client stuff. And then I'm like, they need the development and it's important to nurture them, but also I can't create this much space all the time ad hoc. So I said, hold your questions for this one time in the week and we'll dedicate an hour. And if it's going to be valuable to you, it will be valuable to others. So we're going to record them. So then I'm kind of getting content generation, add value to the industry, but my team and I get the opportunity to learn. So I'm forcing that learning time on our team. When other things will be like, Hannah loves like reading and blogs and I hate that shit. I'm not like into models and I can't read academic stuff. It just, my head doesn't work that way. But I'll see a headline or I'll see something behave in a way that's unexpected for me. And I'll be like, that's interesting. What is that? And I just find the title. I give it to Hannah. And because she's such a curious reader and like loves writing and that's how she processes and learns, that's where all the blogs come from. So it's either been something that I've said, I want to learn more about this. Hey, Hannah, can you please go find out about it? Because it helps her ID development. And she goes and writes the blog. And then when I'm proofreading her blog, I'm learning the thing that I originally wanted to learn about. And then what happens from there is we go, cool, we have a blog now. Chunk that down into micro learning. And that's where you get like basically 5 little micro posts based on a bigger blog that comes out. And then a lot of the time, like, I think you've probably seen, or maybe not, I shouldn't assume, but we do have these ones that are like quick fire, or they're like really like random ones where like, particularly there's one where Victoria, she'll do a word generator and she's just literally hitting the word generator. That's like, it just comes up with like carpet, sock, plant. And I actually started that because I wanted, first of all, to challenge my thinking on the spot. And Hannah had a desire to start facilitating workshops better. So Hannah's facilitation means that you need to adapt in the moment, right? You don't know what anyone's going to say to you. It's chaotic. You're going to be stressed. You got to think in the moment. So for two purposes there, I can get more advanced and quicker thinking myself and know how to start applying what I know to anything that comes against me. And Hannah has the opportunity to develop in a thing that she's interested in, which is facilitation. How do you develop those skills? You got to think on the spot. So Vic asked us, we cannot prepare. We just go, this topic's on ID. What does the word inspire? Or this topic's on human-centered design. What does it inspire? And we're literally getting words spit at us. And then we get the opportunity to experiment, to embed, to like try on the job training. And then that's obviously a great opportunity for other people to learn. That's why we record it. But everything is just, how can we be better? I think there's a gap here, or I think this could challenge us a bit more. Let's do it, but let's wrap it up in something that we can put out into the world. And hopefully it adds value to someone else's life. But like everything you see, it's not making us money. Like, you know, like none of that stuff. It genuinely comes from a place of love to make the industry a better place, to make the solutions we create a better solution for any idea, making better solutions, because that makes a better human being, which for me is important to make the world a better place. So that's kind of the core behind everything.
Awesome. That's it's really nice to see, because I think so often, I don't know, you kind of, especially with kind of content on a website, the Creator Hub has always been one of my favorite places to go to, just to get little resources as and when needed, because they are entire, they are complete. You can go and use them. So often when you go, it's a free resource, and you go, it's half a resource, and at the end it says buy this to get level 2 or the useful bit, as the rest of us call it. But I've kind of never found that with bedrock of my business is basically downloading your free stuff.
You're welcome. And I hope it's fucking getting you the results that they get me. Yes, that's what they're there for. I want it for everyone else.
This is it. And I think it's that it strikes me that you have an attitude of you're not nurturing, or I suppose technically you are nurturing competitors, is in people working in the field, but there's not that fear of, if I let someone else get good at this, I will lose customers to them. Which I guess kind of, if I'm right, goes back to that thing of, you don't want every customer, you want the customers that are right for you.
Absolutely.
If that's awesome.
Do not, don't convince anyone ever. Like, it's just so painful.
I like that. Yeah, I know. I really like that, because I think so often when you kind of look, certainly I had to go and retrain my mind to go and have sales conversations after many years of not doing it.
Yeah.
And a lot of that was even these days, was very much a case of, no, you've got to find the angle, and you've got to align, and you've got to put pressure on the customer to agree in a short term, and all this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it always felt a bit kind of, this is not building a relationship. And I'm sure if you were just going, here is an item I have sold you, now go away, we never see you again, maybe this works. But we don't have that kind of luxury, if you will, in our world. We have to work with this person for, I don't know, 3 to 6 months after that contract signature. Yeah. So it seems to be much more about building relationships, which I think is quite different to kind of standard sales. But I'm aware we're already shooting past the hour. But I really want to ask, actually, your experience of growing your business, bringing other people in. Your business, as you say, is an extension of yourself. So what was it like bringing other people into that?
It had to be done, definitely, because I don't like everything, and I don't want to do everything. Like, I get skate lessons on a Thursday, and I don't work for the morning, because I want to learn how to skateboard, and I want the freedom to do things like that. I want to go, I am not enjoying this right now, or I am not feeling this right now. Maybe, like, I had a really hectic Thursday, Friday last week where I was like, just workshopping back-to-back non-stop kind of stuff with clients. I was exhausted. So then I wanted, yesterday, it ate into my weekend, that exhaustion. So yesterday, Monday, I was like, I'm not going to do the best work. I want the freedom to say, afternoon off, go sort yourself out. So today, Tuesday, I am on fire for whatever I need to do. So I guess I knew myself that I wanted other people involved, because in my future life, I will not want to be doing it the whole time. I will want to go down to 4 days. Like, we work a 9-day fortnight now anyway, but maybe in the future I want to do 4 days a week. Maybe in the future I want to travel and have 3 months abroad where I have nothing to do at Belvista Studios, and then I come back super energized and I'm freaking pumping shit out, and we are on fire for 9 months. So knowing that about myself, I needed to create the system for me to exist and enable that kind of lifestyle, and to attract people that I could rely on to maintain what we represent, maintain what we're about, and also be on the same mission as me. And so that was the first decision. I think you got to think about that. Do you want to be a solo person? Can you do everything yourself? Are you happy with the income you can make that way? There's a few decisions like that, right? If you do decide that you want people, It's, first of all, like I said, those things I hate doing. I hate admin. So that was the first thing I wanted to get rid of. And I was like, if I can free up this time, imagine what else I could do. Like, I could watch YouTube videos and learn to be better at something else that's going to have a bigger impact. And if I'm so passionate about that, surely someone else is so passionate about the admin stuff. Who are they? Tell me where they were. I will pay them. So I was very clear on that the minute I was going to reach capacity or something became very painful, again, another non-negotiable boundary for myself, I would take action on that. And so Hannah and I had worked in a corporate job before, and we worked in the same team. And then eventually I became her supervisor. I think we worked together for about 2.5 years. And I always knew she will be my first employee if I ever start a business. So at this point, I didn't know like I was going to have Belvista Studios, but she demonstrated characteristics that were really important to me as a human. She had integrity. She used her initiative. She was a good human being. We got along. We were friends, that kind of stuff. So I always knew that's going to be the first employee for me. So when I had the opportunity, I asked her, is this something you're interested in? And then it basically started with 5 hours per week. I was stressed because I was like, oh my God, can I afford that amount? Like, it was nothing when I think about it. Like 5 hours a week is not really that much. But when you add up the money and then I think about 5 hours back to me, 5 hours to potentially go surfing, 5 hours to like learn stuff or work on better clients, whatever it was. So then you do like return on investment of that. She came on full time after about 2 weeks, and then the same thing again. There's more things we don't like. There's more things that we can't do. Someone else might be better at, and that's where Victoria came from. But I know that that's it for me. Like the three of us, and we got another buddy that you guys don't see that gives support as well. I don't want to go bigger than that because, it wouldn't align to who I am. But we always constantly checking in on what's important to us as human beings. What do we care about? What do we like about work? What do we not like? How is this enabling our ultimate lives? Because Belvista Studios is a vehicle to enable our ultimate lives. And we're just very fortunate that we're not fortunate, but we create the projects, the initiatives, the things that we like so that people reward us financially so that we can keep doing it.
It's also, I think it's sometimes, I don't know, I think sometimes it's underappreciated how difficult that bringing the first person in stage is, especially to say, I think I maybe had it slightly easier in that my brand is less me. My brand has always been slightly more detached, but I think if my brand was me amplified, I wouldn't have got a first client. I don't think.
Nonsense. They would have been your twin, I reckon.
Yeah, we'd have got maybe we got a first client, but the total client base in the world would be about 6 people, and that'd be okay. But it's
but you're
probably
a niche,
not
they'd
the foundation
pay more
for
money, probably.
So I'm told, but no one's told them. I don't think. So I guess one question I definitely want to ask before we close out, unless there's anything you want to talk about as well, because I like to throw these things open, is the broader field of instructional design. We've spoken a lot about this. I want to go really wide here at the end. What kind of changes have you seen, and what changes are you hoping to see this year
in the industry?
Yes.
Oh, mate. Do you know what? It's just going to come to... I don't know why I'm laughing. It's probably not what you expect. Okay. I just want people to love themselves more and to align to their authentic selves. And if they do that, everything else will work out. And I think if we just take responsibility for that and make our decisions based on love and not fear, we will have better careers, we will have better relationships, we will create better solutions, we will learn the right things that are aligned to our journey, all of the things. So that's my hope for the world.
Oh, that's awesome. I like that. Usually I ask a question like that and someone goes, I'd like an authoring tool that does the following things. But no, I think that'd have a much larger and more profound, I think, impact on on every industry, but specifically ours. No, that's awesome. Is there anything that that you want to talk about, that you want to ask me about, that we haven't covered? Anything you think people should know?
Oh. Okay, one thing that's pressing that I just want to say before I ask you questions, quick fire, get to know Tom, is have an abundance mindset. Like we talked about, supporting our peers and our competitors, and lowering your rates because you want this job this week and to sign the contract. Have an abundance mindset. I literally say this every morning, there is an abundance of clients available and they choose to sign contracts with Belvista Studios. And I then specify how much per month I'm signing and the value of work that's going out. So I'm quite big on that, but there is opportunity there. And that's what I mean about the love and fear. Love is abundance, and there is an abundance of opportunity there. If you start listening to LinkedIn and things that like other people's fear, then you think there's no contracts. Oh my God, I got to lower my rate, or I'm never going to transition from this industry into ID. So that I would just say, have an abundance mindset and you will be sweet. Come from a place of love all the time. And now, Tom,
that's awesome.
Over to you.
Oh.
What are your challenges at the moment?
Oh, blimey.
Now, we'll keep it G-rated and we'll relate it to the industry. They're the parameters
good.
and scope of this conversation.
I think the biggest thing for us right now is we've brought new people in, and that's very exciting, and it's allowed us to take on exciting projects that we didn't think we'd be able to do, bring in exciting skills that I have no interest in learning.
Brilliant.
But it comes with the fact that the business then has to evolve. We do have to. We're called evolve. That was a poor choice of words. But the business is no longer me and people that I have known for years and years and years. It is now people who I have met through a hiring process, and for the first time we're getting feedback internally that is different, that doesn't come from the same place. That they sort of align, but more professionally align as opposed to personally align.
Yeah.
Which for me is fine, I guess, because my brand is far less about my personal stuff and more about just me professionally. I don't think I'd be fully comfortable with my personal self as a brand. I think that's a very brave thing to do. But yeah, so that's the biggest challenge right now, is figuring out how to I don't know. It's not quite rebrand, but how to repackage the business so we do feel cohesive and that everyone feels like they're represented by it. Because I'm aware at the minute that we've almost got two halves. One half is very much, yeah, this is who we are. And the other half is going, well, yeah, we're part of this, but we don't, this doesn't energize us, kind of thing.
Okay.
So it's interesting.
And that's internally, not externally? Like it'd be just what's happening within the team?
Yeah, so that's it right now. Externally, challenges the external right now. To be honest, the biggest challenge externally right now is like people pushing down rates, which strangely, at the time when everyone knows everyone needs a lot more, we're also seeing a big push down of so and so will do it cheaper, and it has been a struggle not to go, oh, well, should we do some of this? Is there a reason that suddenly everyone can find something cheaper? And I think at the minute, I've kind of held off, but it is kind of lurking in the back of my mind, like, is this something I need to consider?
No.
But I'm suspecting not, based on our conversation today.
No, you better listen and take action on what we've spoken about. I think as well, like, I kind of think I'm not exposed to that. I'm very protective of what I consume as well. I think it is kind of like an algorithm, right? You start liking posts and the algorithm starts showing you more and more of that. You hear this person's lowering a rate, or someone says they can do it cheaper. And then you're just like the new car. You're going to buy a new car. You see it everywhere. That's what's happening for you, honestly. And that's what I mean about that abundance mindset. So the minute you switch on to, oh shit, like, should we be lowering? That's why it's really clear to have those non-negotiables written down for yourself, because then you can hold yourself accountable and just go, it doesn't matter. because there's so much available to me. And what I'm hearing right now is just everything. I'm paying attention to that because that's what I've kind of heard. My brain is now that reticulated something system, the RAS, is now paying attention to hear more of that, to validate that that is reality, when in the instance it's actually not. That would be my advice with the price thing. Do not discount or lower your rates to compete, and block out anything that is, or go find more of the opposite that is more beneficial or adds value to your life.
Definitely. That's awesome advice. Thank you. No, that's good stuff.
What do you reckon? Can I ask you like quick fire tips?
Oh, go on then.
For
Why
our
not?
industry.
These episodes usually rely on value coming from the other side of the fence, so this will be interesting. This is where I'm exposed as not having a clue.
Yeah. Everyone's like, "Oh, don't hire Evolve Learning."
Well, yeah,
they're geeks, but nah.
Don't worry, there are other people. They're professionals. They know what they're doing.
Yeah. Exactly. You're the mascot.
Yeah, exactly. I could embrace that role. I could do that.
Yeah, nice. Okay, so what do you reckon? High quality audio or high quality video?
Oh, audio all day long. I can put up with awful video is passable if it's got good audio to
it. What's the most important part of your instructional design process? Number one toolkit, actually, or tool or process that you use?
I mean, the most. Oh, that's really tricky. I think the most impactful thing that we did was actually a change we made about a year and a half ago, which is learner-focused interviewing ahead of SME conversations. Before we were doing them, but we were doing them the other way around. So we spoke to the SME first, then we spoke to people, and therefore we had a very coloured view of the world going into the conversation. We still have a very coloured view of the world going into the second conversation now, but I would say it's a more useful understanding as opposed to this is how the world is supposed to be understanding, which never is never reality. Let's put it that way. It's
love that. What questions do you ask the users?
We usually keep it super simple. So prior to that, we've identified one thing. What is it you want your people to be able to do differently or better? And then we usually just, if we're lucky, when we were able to do them in person, which was amazing. But even when we do them remotely, we pretty much say, we're here to answer one question. How can we get you to do this? But then we usually ask them, to walk us through, I don't know, let's say it's part of a customer service process. Walk me through this process. Talk to me about it. Yeah. Tell me about your day. Give me an example of how this happened recently. We try and avoid a kind of interview style interaction. We like to try and get kind of 10, 15 people together and have a chat about the issue. And then usually we find that they've pretty much given us a checklist of what to go and build, which is great, because it's less work. But if not, they've certainly given us some interesting points when the SME says, well, people just need, because usually it's a case of, well, they just need to do the job properly. And more than anything, actually, it's allowed us to catch things that we can't fix. That's been the biggest change, where we can say, actually, this isn't, the number of times we've said this isn't a training issue. Your system is broken, or team managers aren't giving people the time they need. And certainly it's allowed us to do more than just provide a product to companies. We've actually been able to almost be more like a consultant to help their business improve, rather than just saying, we provide learning and that's the only thing we can provide you, which is always dangerous.
That's cool. How would you respond then when the SME says, no, I don't care what they say, like, I know it best, you need to develop my slides?
Well, we usually, that's usually where we get into the conversation of, well, look.
Red eject button.
well, yes, if that, I'm not going to lie, it rarely becomes that point, because you're right, that's why we have a, it's not quite as we have a list of industries we no longer work for. We do, but banks and oil companies, we can't do it. We're sure you're lovely people, but no. However, if we have to have that conversation, it's usually along the lines of, well, look, here's what your business is about to spend, and I'm telling you that doing it will not fix this problem. What's going to happen at the end of this if you have spent that money and not fixed the problem? Do you think that's a good idea? We always, our kind of rule is, whenever possible, when dealing with the business, talk about money, not about abstract stuff. We care a lot about engagement and retention and action intention, all this kind of thing. No one else cares, basically. That's the language that bothers us because it's what we do, right? The business, whether it's good, bad, indifferent, whatever, ultimately cares about money because that's why businesses exist. So whenever we've got the opportunity to put it in those terms, it tends to land. It's not to land better. It does land better, but everyone understands money. I think that's the biggest thing. Whereas if we start talking about learning specifics, we also have to explain what that term means and why they should care about it. And if you're already kind of not aligned in that moment, that's unnecessary friction to the conversation, I think.
Great tips. I know you for working in Evolve, the authoring tool. Why are you frothing over that bad boy so much as opposed to the other one?
Yeah, I mean, I've always said that if authoring tools are exactly that, they're tools. So you should never go, I use this or I use that or this is my favorite. But right now I'm really looking for things that step outside and beyond of 16:9 aspect ratio. Because the world is not 16:9. It never has been. The web moved on a decade ago. But we've just kind of gone, no, slides are the apex of learning design. And of course they're not. And more, I think the revolution of mobile learning didn't happen, which I don't think was that shocking, because who wants to give their mobile phone to their workplace for free? I wouldn't be signing up to that. But responsiveness is becoming a much bigger deal, and accessibility is becoming a much bigger deal, as it always should have been. But again, as an industry, we are somewhat behind the curve on these things. And for me, tools like, and it's not just Evolve, you've got Evolve, I use that a lot, but you've got Chameleon Creator. More recently, you've got tools like Pebble Pro launching. All these tools are taking very different views of what's important. So for Chameleon, it's quick development that looks beautiful. That's their whole thing. Evolve is very much about, they started by using the Adapt framework. Love Adapt because it's open source and I'm a nerd and so I like that kind of thing. But I also accept that Adapt is a pain when you have to go, so installation, open the command prompt window, and that's usually where most people stop. So Evolve kind of offers a way into that. But it also offers really quick authoring. It offers responsiveness to pretty much any device because it's all HTML5. But also it's the ability to quickly change things. That's the stumbling block, I think, for a lot of businesses, is you create content, whether you're creating it internally or you're handing it over to them, and then they go, so if we want to update this, what do we have to do? Well, it's going to be painful. Because even the best developed stuff in Storyline, I find Storyline increasingly is a little bit buggy, and internally it's a big skill to learn, right? It's a from scratch tool, everything's manual. In Evolve, I'm much more comfortable handing that over to a business and saying, just log in and change it, just change the text, it's all there. You can't really break it. It's quite handy, but it isn't as restrictive as, say, a Rise or this kind of thing. It's kind of pulling in those more modern elements of, you don't have to, but do you want to use CSS in here? If you do, put it in, that's fine. You want to code it yourself? Not a problem, but you absolutely don't have to. It gives you the freedom without insisting you have a huge skill base. So it's a tool that can grow with you. And then you've got things like Pebble Pro, which I think is doing something I've not seen before and is using EPUB, like ebook style stuff, rather than it must be SCORM or XAPI and these kinds of things. So again, for me, it's any tool that does something a little bit different or attempts to move us forward a little bit is something worth looking at. It's the same reason I got very excited when I found out Adobe was going to do a new version of Captivate, and then less excited when I realised they were just going to reskin Captivate. It was kind of like, okay, that's fine, but it still slides. That's, fine, but... And there will always be room for 16:9. I sound like I hate all slides. I don't. Still use Storyline a lot. But it's nice to get away from it. It's nice to be able to create something a bit different.
That's cool. All right. If last question.
Go for it.
And then we'll wrap up my podcast here tonight, folks. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Please share this with anyone that will add value. Like, comment, subscribe, all of that jazz. And please hire Belvista Studios or Evolve Learning. I mean, Belvista Studios. No, okay. The little Tom, when I spoke about passions back in the day, if he was doing his dream job and... based on your passions, would it be anything else?
I would. It's incredibly. Do you know what? It's funny. I don't think I would actually enjoy doing this as a job. I think I like the idea of it, but the practicality of doing it for all the time would kill the joy, if that makes sense. I would love to go and work on working around the kind of scoring and folio sounds for films. That would be fantastic. I did a lot of it at school. I occasionally do it as like a side project, and it's really great fun. But I think if I actually did it day in, day out, I don't know, I think the joy would somewhat go from it, because it can be extremely tedious. When someone's going, those footsteps, they're not quite in sync. Can you move them X many milliseconds to the... I think every now and then you kind of go, oh yeah, this is great to get into this kind of detail. If I had to do that every day, I might go mad. Fair enough. But I think that's what I wanted to do. I think it's, it's like you go through so many things, especially when you work in that part of when you work and you learn in that kind of creative area. There's always someone doing something amazingly cool. Like I met a man who just makes gobos, which are the frames you put in front of lights to sort of put different effects on stage. Yeah. His whole career, like 40 years, was I make these. And I make them for theatres all over the world. And for like a month, I was like, wow, that would be amazing. And I was, I've no interest in that. It's just really cool. But I think that's always the danger, isn't it? In fields like that you're interested in, every other job looks really cool. But I can't think of many other jobs where I would get to do what I like, the variety of things that I get to do now. So I think, all in all, quite lucky to end up here.
That's cool. Okay, one follow-up question.
Go for it.
What film should I watch to appreciate the music and the audio storytelling?
I mean, that's really tricky. So I think one of the best, in my opinion, and you have to put up with the fact it's a slightly older film, and so the audio quality, as we would say now, is not great, but the actual scoring is phenomenal. And that's Seven Samurai. I think it helps in many ways that, unless you happen to speak Japanese, that the dialogue is somewhat lost on you, but the score tells. You can turn subtitles off. The score will tell the story. And you somewhat see that in modern films, like you've got the big epics like The Lord of the Rings and those kinds of things where the score, I mean, if you bring out and you get an amazing score always. But to me, that was always the film that I watched and just thought, don't need the dialogue, don't need the subtitles, listen to the score, watch the images, you've got the whole story.
Love it.
But yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to do that.
So, I'll jump back into control now. Thank you so much for taking the time out to appear on the show. I know you're always super busy, but certainly have other things to fill your time with. But thanks so much. No,
I'm grateful. I appreciate the opportunity. Flattered to be on here. So thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
You're doing good stuff. I know it adds value.
Thank you very much. And thank you everyone for joining us, for listening. Hopefully you got something out of this. I'm sure you certainly got something out of the first half. Maybe you won't go and watch a dodgy Japanese black and white movie after this, but hey, maybe you will. It's time well spent. Before you do go, please do make sure you check out the links in the description. Everywhere that you can find Kim will be there. Whilst you're in the description, please consider subscribing to the channel, liking the video, and of course leaving us a comment so we know what you found useful. You can also share this with anyone you think might benefit from Kim's advice. I know I certainly did.